discussion on all things comeback of a lifetime. There's a few things going on in the world right now, and I think it's a good opportunity to see how we can all help each other out, have those open conversations about, how and what we're doing in our businesses to pivot, and the challenges that we've seen and how we're overcoming them. So we've got Jack Monson from Social Geek Radio and John Andrews from Photofy leading our discussion today. And one of the things I mentioned before is that if you have any questions, I'm leaving the chat open so you can talk. Otherwise, if you have any questions that you want to just type in the Q&A or the chat screen, I'll go ahead and ask those. So let's kick things off with, Jack, what is comeback of a lifetime? And I mean, I love it. Every time I first saw it, I was like, it's so positive, it's uplifting. It's something that we all can look forward to during this. So I guess what sparked that?
It kind of evolved during the month of March when everything was starting to shut down and businesses were starting to shut down. My firm, Social Joey, works with about 50 or 60 franchise brands, and then a lot of franchisees around the country. And some of them were definitely starting to see the impact and having some challenges of closing their doors temporarily. And I wanted to post a lot on social, as I do every day on Facebook and LinkedIn and other places. And everything I saw was just doom and gloom, and of course you can't be too overly happy about it when a pandemic is hitting and people are sick and people are losing their jobs. But I thought for the remainder of this pandemic, I'm not going to post anything negative. I'm not going to post anything political. I'm not going to post anything that could be controversial. I'm not going to post anything other than something that's might kind of lift somebody's spirits, especially if their business just had to close its doors. So kicked around a few hashtags with some friends, and the one that just kept coming back to me was comeback of a lifetime, because I really do think that's going to happen. Back in March, I thought that would be happening now, or maybe in May or June. Now it's like, okay, maybe it's going to be a few months down the road. We got to see exactly what's happening with all of these spikes and what's happening in some different parts of the country. But it's going to happen. It just depends on kind of where you're at and what business you're in, if you're experiencing that comeback right now. But for most of the people who are in business right now, they might not have been around in some of the other troubling times we've had in the past. Stock market crashes and depressions, and a lot of business owners weren't even around or in business for 9/11. Right. So this is really the first huge hit that a lot of small business owners have taken, and I just think everybody needs to look at it like they will have a comeback. We just aren't sure exactly when it's going to be. And so everything that we're sharing on social for the Social Geek podcast, for our Social Joey clients, everything that we're sharing, I just have been including that hashtag, and if it's one thing that can help people kind of look forward every day, then it's serving a purpose.
I love it. And I guess with your work with Social Joey, what are some trends that you're seeing right now?
Depending upon the sector for the client, it's sort of all over the board. In the franchise space, the industries that have been hit really hard, obviously hospitality, fitness, gyms, that kind of thing. But we have some automotive clients that are doing great. They're not closing, or they didn't have to close, and they actually came up with some new ideas and some new services that they could give to their customers. Obviously, a lot of food franchises have switched from in-person to carry out and delivery and things like that, and really had to turn on the technology and get their apps to a place where people could use them in a different way. We work with some healthcare brands that have definitely not slowed down, but their business has changed greatly, and how they're taking care of patients has changed greatly. So, so the trends overall for most of our clients are they're on the comeback right now. Even some restaurant brands that had closed down, most of them are open now. Most of their locations are open right now. Still struggling a little bit with limitations and restrictions and how many people they can serve at any given time. But it is looking better now than it was, let's say, 30 days ago.
Don't you see that changing really quickly now? I mean, to me, everything seems to be turning in the complete opposite direction. I think all these places that are opening are, if they're smart, they're making plans to shut back down.
Yeah, I think that's the key, is making plans to shut back down, and being able to do that, not just for a spike in people getting sick in their state or their county, but I think we've got to keep these plans together for the rest of our lives. You know, if it isn't a COVID spike in July, it could be H1N1 coming back in September, or it could be, we could go to war in October. Who knows what's going to happen?
You know
right?
what? If people put this stuff into their playbooks, then they're going to know. Like, John talks about this all the time. Be prepared. Be prepared to shift your business. If you're just going to sit back and wait for things to go back the way they were,
it's never going to go back to the way it was, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, in some ways, I'm not saying this is good and it sucks and it's a horrible thing and we wish it would all go away, but being that it's not, just the way I see it, the smartest businesses are making alternative plans for going forward.
Yeah.
Well, a great example of that, I think, is I've been very impressed with Walmart, and I'm a Walmart fan. I admit that, surprisingly, because I don't shop there very much. But I worked for them at one time, and I have a lot of respect for the company. And they were 4 years ago, they were chasing all this shiny new stuff, right? Jet.com and all this crazy e-commerce and try to be relevant. But somewhere along the line, somebody realized, hey, you know what our customers really need is they're starting to do things like grocery pickup, right?
Yeah.
And delivery probably seems like something that's going to be a thing. You probably, and they 2 years ago, they went in hard and at least got all their stores ready for pickup, right? And this is, I think this is exactly what Ted just said. That one move made them ready for this event more than anything else. Was just, they had the flexibility to instantly, I think they had 2,500 stores or so online at the time, or more maybe. They were ready, and I don't know if you remember, in March, something like 30% of US households got their groceries via pickup. And I think Walmart was just ready, where some other folks, we have grocery pickup at my local Harris Teeter here, and it's still kind of clunky, right? It's still kind of low.
And that's probably because they developed their pickup strategy in March. They didn't already have something at least on the drawing board. And I think that's where
they had it, but it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where Walmart went and did full on dedicated lanes, they took the criticism that they got that their e-commerce, like the process for ordering groceries was not very good. So but instead of, everybody was saying, oh, retail, you got to do all these things and you got to have all this shiny stuff. No, you got to have fundamental systems that helped people. Walmart shoppers aren't moving to online grocery delivery tomorrow. But because of the pandemic, a lot more of them are there, or at least with pickup, than would have been probably 3 years from now, 5 years.
So it amplified it, kind of back to Ted's point about planning ahead, not just for the next pandemic or the next phase of COVID or whatever. But Walmart was planning that pickup strategy, not knowing that COVID-19 was going to exist, right?
Sure.
But the fact that they were planning for that, and they probably had 100 other things that they were planning too.
It's something that its shoppers were going to want, and that wasn't hard to see. I think, you know, it is much harder for somebody like Walmart to spend a lot of time and energy executing, given the projected growth rate. You know, those meetings you're always in. Well, you know, people are not going to do grocery delivery. Only 10% of households are going to do grocery delivery for the next 3 years. So, you know, most businesses would say, it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are you going to wait until 25% of households are doing it and they're already leaders in it and then do it? You know, I mean,
Don, it's like no one's ever going to do online photos, right? What was it, the ones and zeros?
Yeah. The
You know,
Ted
look,
referencing when I worked for a company years ago that got purchased by Kodak, and we were doing digital. We were the back end of America Online's You've Got Pictures, right? And Max, you will this will freak you out, but to upload a picture back in the day, a one picture, about a megabyte picture, would take about 5 minutes, let's call it, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So so yeah, Kodak was like, yeah, we've got some research out of Japan that says no more than 30% of consumers will ever adopt digital, right? They just didn't want to hear it. And then Mom is the CMO told us one time, banged his hand on the table, said, Mom is never going to trust her family's memories to ones and zeros. I'm like, or TikTok. You
know,
Yeah, right.
Don't know, right?
what it shows you is even when you see something coming, very often it takes some kind of an emotional motivation to get people to try. And,
Right.
you know, I mean, I'm a perfect example. I'm as pretty much as digital as it comes. And I never did grocery delivery. And I John would say, hey man, try it. It's great. You know, no, I'm good. I stop by, go to a Whole Foods. It's cool. I will never go back to going to the store. I don't care if you tell me they're giving away free shit when you go there and everything's 100% safe. I'm ordering online now. And so many people, I think, yeah, sure, there will be people that go back. And of course, I might stop by if I need something 5 seconds from now. But in essence, a lot of this is about emotional stimulus.
It is 100%. I know when, I'm sorry, Angelique, just a quick anecdote. My daughter loves ChickfilA, loves ChickfilA, right? Loves it, right? And so sometimes before school, she'll want to go by and, you know, get a biscuit or something. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm gonna go in, I'll get a biscuit with you. And she's like, why do you order at the counter? Like, she cannot process. And I'm just like, well, it just takes a second. I mean, she cannot process that people order things from the counter. She says, Dad, like, no one does that. But to Ted's point, I'm just like, well, I like talking to the people. They're friendly. And, you know, Chick-fil-A, I mean, they have your stuff in your bag before you can get it out of your mouth, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and order. So, but it is that emotional attachment to the way we do things versus the way we could do things.
And the emotional incentive to get you to change. By the way, for the audience, I'm reading a great book now, which I'm purposely putting in between a lot of my reading about Black Lives Matter and white fragility and other political topics and things that I think are important, because it's about how to change things when change is hard. And what it talks about is that, you know, there's 3 things to change. There's the writer, and that's the analytical person that's looking at all the details and reading all the stats and is always held up because they want to analyze more. And then there's the elephant, which is the emotional component. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get the elephant, like, there's no way the rider is moving that elephant if you don't get something emotional that gets that elephant willing to make that ride. And then to something John's always taught me about for so long, when, you know, we had Prevailing Path and talked about the path of purchase, which we still do now at Photofy, is then you have to outline the path, because otherwise it's just too many freaking choices. And if you don't understand what the path is and guide both the rider and the elephant down the path. So I think right now we're having an onslaught of elephant related things happening that are stimulating the emotional side of things. I think it's a big learning experience. And, you know, the brands that are going to benefit from this are the ones that are going to learn they need to be prepared. And the ones that aren't are the ones that are going to go back to same old, same old. I mean, we're all watching it right now. We're seeing brands going, oh, wow, if everything's open, we don't have to deliver anymore. And we don't need pickup. And let's just open up stores. And uh-oh, they're closing the stores again. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you guys think you're ever going to be in a meeting again with a big brand that that somebody's looking at projections for, you know, 2 years down the road or 4 years down the road, and they're like, oh, this is exactly how it's going to go? I think one of the things that maybe people are learning is that there's going to be more unknown out there. I think there's never this clear path that brands have convinced themselves in that exists, that I think maybe we're going to be a little more apt to be prepared, or at least know that there's some bear in the woods out there that's stalking us right now, and we better be ready for it.
There'll be
Anyway.
There'll be a little bit more of that, just like, you know, there's incremental change in everything, but you'll still be in those meetings because that's what the C-suite wants. They want to set it and forget it. They want to put things in place. You know, I say this all the time. Change doesn't happen there. Change happens from people in the middle who are willing to take chances, who are willing to push change, who know they can get another job if they get fired for trying to create change. It's a lot harder when you're in the C-suite to do that. So, you know, look, hopefully things will just continue on this front. And I don't mean the bad stuff, but I mean that the idea that, just like you said, Jack, that we have to be prepared, you know, that we can't look as far down the road, but we also don't want to short side ourselves and become like the public companies that only look at the next quarter because they're just worried about the stock price.
Jack, what are you seeing? I mean, you probably have the largest breadth of you know, people you're talking to every day who are dealing, I mean, on the front lines of this and dealing with, like you said, you know, we have a couple of fitness customers. You know, fitness was out of business for 2 months.
Yeah.
And now, you know, they've adapted. I know our personal F45, which is a partner of ours, has outdoor classes, and they have. I took one of their Facebook Live classes yesterday. Again, just an adaptation. So, what are you seeing and hearing from people right now?
You know, I think everybody's looking for that, you know, new vein that they're trying to discover. You know, are we going to go to outdoor classes, or are we going to go from seeing patients in person to some sort of, you know, telehealth on your phone? So they're all looking for that vein. And, you know, if they found it already and it's working, I think most of them are saying, you know, wow, we're never going back. You know, it sure is expensive to have these big, huge facilities. So let's just keep the tele whatever happening on the phone. I hate that word tele, by the way, but that's just me. It ranks right up there with cyber. Oh, it's another word that, like, can we just, what decade can we everything? Can we just get rid of some of these words?
I think you're 100% on point. You know, we haven't really taken the conversation there. You know, John and I have had the conversation, and I know we've had this with Angel, just about how, you know, people aren't going to go back to offices, and people are learning how, you know, distance, you know, all this stuff and distance learning, and a lot of colleges are going to start offering a lot more opportunities to distance learn. But I think it goes even further, like you said. I mean, I had an appointment with a doctor that was supposed to be, it was before everything shut down, and I was preparing for the dreaded colonoscopy every 5 years. But they have to do a prep call, and the guy did it via telehealth. And one of the issues I had was they sent me a bill for what my insurance company didn't pay for, like the same exact money as if I came in the office. And I've been trying to speak to somebody there because all I keep getting is their bill collectors calling. And I'm saying, look, I'm going to pay you guys. I just know that no one's going to call me back as soon as I pay. Yeah. So I want to have a conversation with someone there to understand, why are you charging me the same amount of money? The doctor was on the phone with me for 3 minutes. There was no time in an office. There was no prep. There was no nothing. We got in the call. All it was so he could say hello to me before he makes me pass out in his office and, you know, does the rest, which we don't have to discuss here. But
Ted, just wait till they can do that from home too. That could be right. That could be amazing.
I didn't take it to the next step, which you just did for me. that this is really going to be the future of medicine, because yeah, obviously there are things we have to do in person, but there's a lot, and then the cost factor goes down dramatically. I mean, this same doctor that probably could have seen 10 patients, doing it the way he did it with me, he could have seen probably 30.
Right.
So
Well,
is the doctor going to make more money, or are we going to get a lesson, or is it going to be a little bit of both? And I think probably a little bit of both.
and that's also one question that comes to my mind too. I mean, are we getting the same experience virtually than we are in person? And is there some way to provide a touch point in person that can also be connected virtually? Because I mean, I think about my fitness classes, you know, and I love the fact that I have my fitness classes online and can be virtual, and, you know, doing classes with F45 is great, but I'm also like, well, I'm live, so I can just kind of like hang out for a second. Maybe I'll take an extra long water break. You know, I'm competitive, so I have somebody next to me kind of pushing me to that next level. And it makes me wonder, what are these differences going to look like if we keep virtual? And I love adapting to it. I'm already seeing the need to, and, you know, especially even if and when we become in a space where we can have large events again. I guess, again, what does that look like? Is it the same experience? And is it the same quality of experience that brands are able to provide?
Yeah, I would add to that too. How can you expand that customer base due to the virtual experience?
Exactly.
You know, Angel, I'm the opposite of you. I would never go to a fitness class with other people in the room. To me, that's something I just do by myself, headphones on. I don't want anybody within, 50 yards of me when I'm sweating like that. So to me, I would never go to your gym and join that fitness class. However, now that they're available online, I'm actually a potential customer for them. And I think there's a lot of people out there, back to Ted's example of seeing a doctor online versus going in. There's a lot of people who might talk to a doctor the way we're talking today, who would just put off seeing the doctor in person because they don't want to have a difficult conversation. We're seeing it too with potentially growing some marketing conferences, franchising conferences, the world I'm kind of living in right now. The International Franchise Association, a quick mention here, they're having some virtual events in mid to late October for their marketing, operations, and franchise development groups. Each of those always had an in-person conference, and they've decided to do these virtually sort of all together during 1 week and have, the same keynote speakers, the same presenters, the same conversations, but doing it just the way we're doing it here today. And we're thinking that we may actually get more people signing up for this, because even though there's some people who just want to go to the conference so they can, see their friends and hang out and that kind of thing, there's a lot of people who really can't afford, or they don't have a travel budget to go to these professional conferences. So if organizations like the IFA or anybody else doing these can keep the cost at a certain level, there may be a whole nother group of potential attendees virtually who would never in a million years be able to attend and come see us in person. So again, I'm a little optimistic about that, but I think that's the way we need to think of we're going to lose a certain group of people who like that in-person experience, who people like John, who like going in and chatting with the ChickfilA people. But how could we expand our customer base or potential customer base to people who really like this virtual setting?
Don't you think it'll be both?
Yeah, and I think that's the key, Ted, is I think we've got to make it both. And, if there are people like myself and my friend Red Boswell, who I see just joined us live. Hey, Red. We love getting out in front of customers and our business partners and seeing those people in person. But for every person like Red or me, there might be another one out there who would join a virtual conference who really isn't interested in flying across the country to go to something like that.
Yeah. And that was going to be one of my other questions too, is with pricing as well. I mean, like Ted was saying earlier with, paying the same price for something virtually. I've even seen Harvard, for instance, they're taking a bunch of their classes online this fall, but they're still charging, full-time tuition cost. So I'm just interested, how do we think that's going to change? I mean, how do we adapt to that? I mean, maybe that's kind of an open-ended question, but it's interesting.
I think there's going to be two. I think it's going to be Harvard can, and that's why they will, whereas other universities won't be able to get away with that just because of whether it's their reputation or what they bring to the table. And then just something I wanted to add before, I think there's going to be some hybrids in a lot of these things where, like, for instance, my brother is a BU professor, and what he found very interesting is he was terrified of having to teach online. He'd never really done a Zoom. He loves the connection to his students. But what he found is he had a pretty good percentage of the students that performed better online, because to like the point Jack was making earlier, like they were happy to just like in the fitness example, they would raise their hand, but they would never do it in class.
Yeah.
But now they didn't have to see the kid next to them making a face at them or giving them a hard time or look at the faces of the people while they're talking. So I'm just guessing eventually there's going to be a lot of hybrid models.
We call them.
There's got to be, yeah.
We call them gunners in business school, right? So you always had the gunners who are,
right.
Man, I mean, you get like, I can't get a word in, like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that from a classroom environment. That totally makes sense, right?
John, I love that one. I love the guys that while you're answering, they're raising their hand and speaking over you. Those were my favorites.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so conditional and there's so many variables to it, because I think about my niece she's pre-med, and she can't do some of her classes virtually at all. And so she's struggling right now with some of these, she can't do a lab virtually. She has to be in a classroom to do that. So yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of variables there still. And even if there is a hybrid model, is that going to be as efficient?
I'm going to throw a question out to Red, who joined us a few minutes ago. Red, if you've got your mic unmuted, everybody, Red's been doing a lot of work with potential business owners and doing franchise discovery days and that kind of thing virtually. Red, what's your experience been with that? Are you reaching people who maybe you wouldn't have reached before, or is that type of business not quite there yet?
Yeah, Jack, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead. I
Awesome.
can hear great.
So I personally am not doing any of the discovery days, but we've got about 450 plus franchisors we work with, and I've been interviewing them a lot like Jack is interviewing folks and doing a lot of Zoom calls. And I ask them all, what has changed? What are you doing differently today? How have you pivoted? How have you been impacted and responded? Everybody's doing virtual discovery days, right? Most say they're never gonna get rid of them, but also most say they will go back to offering in person when appropriate. Some have already done that, some are waiting, but they all have agreed that the virtual discovery day, and by the way, a good 80% thought they would never, ever want to do a virtual discovery day. There's nothing like meeting in person, want to press the flesh. And
ones and zeros, right?
Exactly, but the 80% that are doing it now say they've loved it. It has sped up the closing process. Now, whether you call it closing or awarding, it's semantics. But the fact that time kills all deals, and now that they don't have to wait to book and to travel, and hopefully the spouse can come and the kids' soccer gets in the way of that weekend, let's wait a month. Now they can do it virtually much easier. And again, closing deals faster. And most are still being as picky as ever at who they allow at a discovery day. Although it's much easier, you could allow a whole bunch more now that you don't have to put them up in a hotel, etc. They're still being pretty much equally as picky. The biggest takeaway, the biggest surprise of it all for me and for all of them, frankly, has been they're closing just as many. I mean, for someone to fly across the country and stay in a hotel and spend all day with you and do dinner and all that, compared to jumping on a 3 or 7 hour one day from their home without even taking a shower kind of discovery day, and yet still closing the same percentage. And in some cases, even a higher percentage. It doesn't make sense, but it's happening.
Yeah. The future is the hybrid then, Ted.
I love that, and I love the mindset change, because we've had, I think this is a little bit of what we're talking about. We've had a lot of these mindset changes, right? Of hey, oh my God, we could never work from home. Really? Okay. To do we really need that office? Like, I mean, or do we need that much of an office, right? Could we have a hotel? Yeah, just some basic things that. You're right, Red. I love that expression. Is like, oh my God, we would never do virtual discovery days too. Hey, well, these work pretty well, and they're probably a lot more efficient.
Yeah, we'd never do it until we got forced to do it and found out that we liked it. So, I'd love to ask John and Ted as well. You guys have worked with some amazing brands and doing branding work for a lot of really great organizations. What are you guys seeing as far as brands that are getting their messaging right about this, or maybe some brands that just come off as so tone deaf and they're not paying attention to anything that's happening this year? Any good examples or advice for brands that are struggling with that right now?
It's a good one.
Ted, you've talked to some people lately. Did you want to?
I think most are way off the mark. I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier. They all think they're just biding time until they go back. I really don't see many brands, that are really embracing that things are permanently changed. And I think a lot of them, look, there's a lot of guys out there not doing bad things. I mean, they're saying wear your mask. They're kind of encouraging people, but at the same time, it's business as usual. And a lot of it comes across, at least to me. Now, remember, my perspective is very different than the average consumer. So we probably have to ask some average consumers if we wanted a real, general opinion. I look at it the way you're asking it as a marketer looking at brands. But a lot of it comes across as disingenuous. It's like, yeah, right now we're supposed to say wear masks. We're supposed to say be healthy. Hey, Black Lives Matter, yada, yada, yada. Let's move on.
Yeah.
And I think that, look, I think this was the perfect storm. I think a lot of what's happening now is happening because of COVID. We have a really dedicated audience for all of us now. People are stuck at home. They've got time. The unemployed people have a huge amount of time on their hands. Even people like us who are very busy, we have way more time we had before because we're not driving places, we're not flying. I was saying the other day, I used to spend so much time making my travel plans, forget about the travel itself. And I'm using it to read a lot more books or to try to engage with people more. And I think that because of that, things like Black Lives Matter are taking on a real serious meaning. Whatever side you're on, I think you all know what side I'm on, because we have time to pay attention. And I think that's going to continue a lot because I think a lot of us are going to find more time as the things we've been talking about happen, as telemedicine takes place, as we start a lot of us working from home. Mm-hmm. And I think that brands are going to have to realize that they're going to have to be a lot more dedicated to this messaging than they have been before.
I would agree with Ted. I think I think one of the things, I think there was this will be over pretty soon and we'll it'll be back to business as usual. And so a lot of people were in hunker down mode, right? So it's just like, okay, I'm going to do a thing. And I did a little podcast with a good friend of mine, Buddy Bingle, who's an entrepreneur this week. And Buddy has got a couple restaurants. He owns a baseball, minor league baseball team. He does some stuff. Well, his baseball's canceled for the year. So their league is done. His restaurants, struggling, but, Buddy was like, man, this is the time for me to tear everything down and rethink how we do it. Because it's never going to be the same. I mean, he adopted this attitude from the beginning. So he has this restaurant called Baker's Kitchen, which is like one of those places that has a wait time for breakfast for like an hour and a half. If you get there, if you sleep in, you're waiting. And it's cool because it's, it's in a pretty little town. But they did pick up French toast. He said, French toast is kind of hard to do to go. So they got the bread and they got all the stuff. He makes this product called Baker's butter syrup. and he packaged it, and you could drive by and pick it up and make it at home, right? And this is the kind of way he operates. He's like, so what we learned in that was we are not ready to do pickup and take out at scale. So we had to reinvent our business, right? And he says, but to the point we're talking about, our business is always going to be different. And wow, imagine if we have a full restaurant business and a full takeout business, how much bigger that could be, right? Versus just the in-person business, which 95% of their business probably was. So just a great example of somebody who's not waiting, and he's using the time with baseball. He said, we had always wanted to do a bigger e-commerce business. He said, guess what? We have an e-commerce business now. We said he's making, the season we didn't play shirts and whatever, just, hey, go and get after it. But and I think people are getting to the end of this process of, yes, this is forever changed now. We're never going back to how we did it before.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? Probably don't know that answer to that, but I can't just wait anymore. I'm going to be out of business.
Yeah.
Well, I also think what's changing is that I don't think companies are going to be able to stick their head in the sand anymore and say, we're staying out of that. We're not taking a stand. I don't think they're going to be able to anymore. I think people are getting used to the fact that people are standing up and companies are standing up, and their employees, more importantly than anything, are saying, hey, wear masks, do things, protect us, protect our customers. And I think that's going to continue after this too, or I'm hoping it's going to continue because, it's hard to say. A lot of these things tend to happen and go away. But like I said, I think with the way things are changing right now, I'm really hoping that this time in our history is going to be put to good use, in that it's going to be a continuing effort instead of just a time in our history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the other things, and Ted, I think you mentioned like some brands and how they're missing the mark. I think especially in service-based industries or retail industries where there is a brick and mortar component, a delivery component, anything like that, I feel like it's a time where brands kind of need to be over communicating. Sometimes I struggle because I don't know if something's open. I don't know if, what their policy is on things. I don't know if, we talk about this a lot at Photofy is employee created content. Like if there's people that I'm following, if it's somebody in Nextdoor talking about it, at least I know what that is, what that looks like. But I think in some cases, some brands are not communicating enough to let people know, hey, we're still out here, we're doing this. I think about like Harris Teeter is great. We're still doing curbside delivery, we're doing pickups. So I think that's another avenue that brands need to be looking at is, opening that up and opening up communication on a daily, if not employee level as well.
Yeah, there's so much noise out there, and we say this every year that, the noise is just getting greater, so we've got to rise above the noise.
Yeah.
Well, I think we just amplified that about 100 times in the past few months. A few of the things that you've got to remind people, like you said, Angel, that we're open. We're strong, we're still here, and I see social media as the fastest, cheapest way for anyone to, tell people, not only are we open, but, look, here's a cool picture from, inside the clinic or inside the ChickfilA of our team, getting ready to start the day or something like that. And if I see that on Facebook or Instagram, I'm not going to have to think, oh, is Chick-fil-A still closed, or did they close again, or whatever? Yeah. Because no one's reading a message that goes out to the email blast list, saying, the Chick-fil-A on Schrader Road is now open again. No one's reading that kind of stuff. But if the team is sending out something fun and interesting from inside the Chick-fil-A, maybe it's a picture of the team, or maybe it's a GIF or something like that. That's going to get attention, and that's what I think so many brands are struggling with right now, is getting their attention out there. And when they do, it's usually something just ridiculously serious and negative and everything like that. It's like, no, you got to show your brand is human, your small business is human. Like Ted said, these are the things that we believe in, and here are the smiling faces you're going to see tomorrow morning, John, when you come into Chick-fil-A. So,
and you bring up a good point, because it also doesn't just matter that you're open. Great, because
yeah,
a lot of people are really afraid to even go and get something through the drive-thru. Some are not at all. Some are like, yeah, we're fine. You're open. We'll go in, whatever. Just people in the middle, and some are absolutely not going to go no matter what. It's just people in the middle. You got to convince. I had a great experience. I went and met our president up at City Barbecue. It's a kind of in between our homes, and we both love barbecue. And so we went up there. As soon as I pulled up, there's a line of chairs out front that blocking spaces just for pickup. So they're aimed for pickup. So you realize already they've got communications on the door. Wear a mask. Mask required. If you don't want to wear a mask, call us and place a to-go order, and we'll bring it out to you in your car. So and when I got in, they had a hand sanitizing station. They had arrows. They had all the stuff. So if you're worried, and all their employees had masks on and gloves, to your point, Jack, just tell people that, right? Tell people, hey, we care about your safety too. And we'd love to sell you some barbecue because we know you want some, and that's how we make our money. And so we're working together to make this thing happen. I was just super impressed with what they did. I actually made a little Instagram post that had about 6 or 7 images of all of their communication steps. And but I was thinking about it with what Angel said. How easy would it be for them to do that, and for their employees to do that every day, to let their networks know, because their networks are probably local, that they're ready. They're open, they're ready for business, and they're taking care of people.
Yeah, and taking care of people is so key right now. Imagine every morning sharing something, not just getting ready to start the day, but showing, the bartender wearing a mask, right?
Yep.
Or
sanitizing the bar.
The cleaning crew out there, right? Like I would not worry about showing the barbecue as much right now, because I think the place probably has a reputation for good barbecue, and right now
I already know that.
I will go eat any barbecue right now. I haven't had barbecue in so long. I don't care what it is. I just want the place to be clean if I'm going to go in and get it, right? That's actually more important than the product right now, which is 6 months ago, I could not have cared less about, I don't want to see the cleaning crew. Now I want to see the cleaning.
I want to see the cleaning crew.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, even if you don't have somebody cleaning 24 hours a day, just have somebody posed looking like they're actually cleaning, and get those images out there, because that's what people want to see. They want to see that you're open, and that you're being helpful and thoughtful.
Yeah.
Well, and they kind of want to know, because as Ted said, he lives in a state that reopened, and now a lot of places are closing again. So I don't know, and I don't necessarily want to. So what is it, and what is the plan? What are you doing?
Yeah, and the Google My Business hours of operation probably haven't been updated properly, right? So anybody who's still looking at that, forget it.
Yep.
Just go on Instagram, go on Facebook, and see if anybody's posting from there today. And if they're not, it's a question.
Yeah. Yep, that's true.
Absolutely. No, that's great. I mean, I was just going to say, we have about 10 minutes left if we want to, answer any other questions or chat about some other topics as well. I mean, I think this has been awesome, and kind of like the full scope of, what brands can be doing, how you can be responding, and I think everything is very unknown right now. And I guess in terms of looking ahead, what are some of your clients doing, Jack, to do so? How are they forecasting things right now?
I don't know that a lot of them have an accurate way to forecast, because I think they're smart enough to know that everything could change again next week, or everything could change again in August. Look at that. I had to actually think, what month is this, right? You know, that, and that's part of it too, is I think, to Ted's point, a lot of people have gotten burned by opening too soon, or not following certain guidelines too quickly. So I think they're not going to get burned a second time, I hope. And I think right now is a good time to plant seeds for what you're doing the rest of this year. But I also wouldn't take my forecast to the bank for any of these brands of exactly what's going to happen in September and exactly what's going to happen in October and November. I mean, we have many more catastrophes that could come our way in the next several months.
We dodged the murder hornets.
Yeah, we so far. You know, the other thing I'll mention quickly too, as far as planning, for anybody who's watching this recording, we're doing this in early July. Our advice right now for getting your messages out is do as much as you can, communicate, Angel, as you said, over communicate as much as you can, especially in paid advertising in July and August, because when September hits, and actually Red Boswell and I were just talking about this, when Labor Day hits this year, your cost of advertising on social media could go way up, because your brand is going to be competing with Biden, Trump, all of the senators, all of the representatives, state, local, everybody, because guess what? No campaign is spending money on this year: in-person rallies and in-person campaigns. So all of that money is going to go onto Facebook and Instagram and other places like that. And the competition, I think, right around Labor Day is going to be unreal. So if you've got some budget to get your messaging out there, we're recommending do what you can in July and August, and be prepared to maybe have to pull back on your budget a little bit in September and October. That's about as far that we want to forecast with anything right now.
Yeah.
You know, Jack, the last tip I just want to throw in there for brands is put your customers first. I mean, I just had an experience with LA Fitness. You know, they were closed, and, you know, they said they put everybody's things on hold. I pay annually, so I don't get a monthly bill. So I don't even know if they really have, because my expiration date is still showing as the same in my account. They claim it'll kick in later. But I'm not going back even though they're open. So I called up and asked them to put my membership on indefinite hold. And they said, okay, we won't usually do that, but we'll do it now. But it's going to cost you $35. And I'm like, you're going to charge me $35 to put my membership on hold because I don't feel safe coming to your club? And they're like, well, that's the rules. And I'm like, well, you know, can I speak to maybe a manager? Because, you know, maybe I'll get a better result there. No, manager's too busy. He's very busy right now. Busy. And, you know, my feeling is I'm done. I'm done with these guys. No way I'm re-upping with these guys. And not only that, I am going to spend my time telling the world about the way I was treated. And most people will do the same, because
that's such an opportunity to win a customer or lose a customer right now, probably with a really easy
little effort.
Yeah. I mean, how easy would it be to go, no problem?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Back to what you guys were saying about, you know, the emotional connection with brands right now. I mean, emotions have been turned up to 11.
Right.
on like everything we're doing right now. And you know, the other thing I'll point out, that when kids start going back to school, if that does happen in most states, who knows where we're going to be a month from now, but when kids are going back to school, prepare for another wave of emotion, because the kids are going to be anxious. I know the parents are going to be anxious to send the kids back to school. I've been talking to a lot of people about that. And, you know, be ready to be even more helpful and, you know, gain some trust from a customer. Like you said, John, this is a great time to, you know, just be good and
Yeah.
be good to people. And guess what? They're gonna want to do business with you.
And have empathy, right?
Yeah.
Like people are struggling, people are out of work. There's all kinds of things going on. I mean, can you imagine somebody who's out of work that has the experience Ted had and be like, dude, yeah, like they're never coming back.
And you know, by the way, this person I spoke to, she has no idea who I am. I said to her, I'm not working. I'm not comfortable coming to the gym. They've already made the judgment call to let me put it on hold. So there's clearly been a conversation about it, but now I get somebody, and by the way, she tells me to call the corporate headquarters. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Ted, I think there's a lot of fitness places out there that would love to have you as a customer, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Planet Fitness, here I come.
There you go.
I pick things up and I put them down.
Well, hey guys, this was awesome. And Jack, thank you so much for joining us and coming together on this. Would love to do more of these and, you know, change up the topic, open the conversation again. So I'll definitely share out recordings of this and let's talk about the next one, you know.
All right, let's do it.
I got time.
I love it. All right, guys, you take care. We'll chat
Thanks,
soon.
everybody.
Thanks
Thanks,
again.
Red. Bye-bye.
Yeah.